Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Technical Critic, and this is going to be my review of Legend of Korra Season 4, Episode 10, Operation Beifong. And I have to say, oh my god, what an episode. Before I begin the review, I'm going to ask you to like, to favorite, to subscribe, but most importantly, to leave a comment down below, because this is not just me talking about the episode, this is also a discussion. So whatever you have to say, be it comments, questions, suggestions, anything at all, if you leave it in the comment section, at the very end of this review I have a discussion section. Whatever comments are left, I read them and I comment on them, I give my opinion on them, and we have a nice chat. So make sure you leave what you have to say down there, and let's begin the review. This episode, when I watched it, I felt like I was watching two episodes in one. And I have to say, both of them were done extremely well. Now, this episode is called Operation Beifong, and the main focus, the A plot, is about Lin and Opal, as we saw in episode 9, preparing to come and rescue Su Yin and the rest of their family. And who else should show up but Toph Beifong to help them? If you were wondering why we did not see Toph going and defending the Banyan Grove tree in Beyond the Wilds, when we see them taking vines, it seems that they didn't cut down the tree, so thank goodness for small miracles. But when you see them taking vines, it seems that the reason she wasn't there was because as soon as she saw Zhao Fu was attacked and Su Yin and the rest of her family was in prison, Toph began to make her way there in order to rescue them. And by the time that Lin and Opal get there, she's already there, she's already scouted out the area, and she's figured out, you know what, they're not here, we have to go and find them elsewhere. This part of the episode is basically a prison break thriller, and it's done really, really well. It's really tight. They have their plans, like, okay, we've got to find where they are, we've got to go to where they are, we've got to break them out as quickly and silently as possible so we don't alert the guards, and then we got to hightail it out of here. And the way that they did it was epic. It is amazing. It is truly a privilege to be able to see Toph bending again and doing what she is. Despite the fact that as she claims, she's a very old woman, she still is one of the most powerful earthbenders out there, and it is just so satisfying to see her back in action. Now, this episode gives us a lot in terms of information, and it takes quite a bit to digest. Not just in terms of plot for this series, but just in terms of world building. There are lots of important pieces of information that are handed to us in this episode. For example, if you've been reading, and I'm going to do a little bit of a spoiler here, so skip ahead a few minutes if you don't want to hear this, but if you've been reading the Rift Part 1 and the Rift Part 2, and you've seen Toph interacting with a particular character, this is where the spoiler comes in, I warned you. Toph fans, rejoice. All of your fan theories, all of your fan fiction, all of your beautiful artwork is no longer speculation. It is now canon. It has been revealed that Kanto, the mechanic, the one who designed all of those wonderful machines, is the father of Lin Beifong. And they do it the way that they always do it, in a throwaway line. And just to see Lin's reaction at how that goes is cantankerous, to say the least. But just the way that it's done, I've always said this, and I'll say it forever. If there's one thing that the Avatar writers love to do, it's antagonize the fans, especially when it comes to information. They have these little throwaway lines where literally, if you were to take what was said in that one line, you could make an entire season, if not an entire series, based on what they said. Take, for example, in Season 3, when it's revealed how Pai Li and Zahir met. The two of them, they share one kiss, and then she goes, "I'm so glad that you rescued me from that warlord, otherwise," etc., etc., etc. just the amount of information that is given in that one statement is enough to write possibly an entire season of Avatar without even referencing the Avatar once. I would pay money to see that episode. Honestly, if someone does a Kickstarter for that, I would give you money for that, to make that as an episode. Show me how that came about. Did he work for the warlord and Pai Li was a captive and he's decided, no, I'm not going to let her be a captive, break her out with his badass martial art? Because remember, Zahir was not always an airbender. He was just a martial artist. To see Zahir beat an entire army using nothing but martial arts would be mind-blowing. And the fact that it's a good and it's a bad thing. The fact that this piece of information, Kanto's relationship with Toph bearing Lin, is revealed, it's a blessing and a curse. Because then, on the one hand, they're saying, okay, look, here is a specific piece of information that you've been looking for, that you've been begging for, so that you can put your fan theories to rest. But at the same time, we're not going to give you the entire story. We, the writers, are going to let you, the fans, build the inference between this is what happens in the comic series, this is what happens in the TV show. Everything else you can put together, you can create yourself. It's almost a choose your own adventure in terms of world building. And to be quite frank, I mind, but at the same time I admire it. So that happens. Bolin is also very heavily present in this episode, and for those of you who've been watching me for a long time, I do not like Bolin. However, in this episode, I actually appreciate his presence in this episode. Season 4 Bolin has been excellent. He's just as good as Season 1 Bolin was. He's better than Season 1 Bolin was. In terms of maturity, in terms of bending power, in terms of how the character is presented. If you look at Bolin and what he represents throughout the show, every single character represents one particular group of people or one particular idea. Bolin represents the everyman. And when he meets Toph, the meeting of one of the greatest earthbenders who has ever lived, basically someone who is a hero to him, the reaction that he goes through is essentially the reaction that every single person who is a super fan has when they meet their hero and they're everything plus more than they expected. I mean, just when Toph goes and pays him a single compliment, he is literally over the moon. And you know what? I can't help but agree. You know what? If your hero goes and says, "Hey, you know what? You do have a talent. You do seem to be good. You do seem to be good at this," and acknowledges that, I can understand where that comes from, and I can appreciate it. He's also the reason that we find out about Kanto. So again, thank you, Bolin. Thank you, Bolin, for being present. This episode is also a precursor because the next few episodes is leading up to the season finale. We've got one episode left, and then it's the season finale. This episode is giving us a taste, a hint at what the season finale is going to be, what we can expect in terms of the season finale. Once Su Yin and the family escapes, we get to see them then have a battle with Kuvira over the spirit cannon. We also in this episode get a revival of a plot that we've been waiting for, that they've been hinting at heavily, but we didn't get to see. We learn that Julie has been working with Batar Jr., and he's been building not a spirit bomb, not something like an atomic bomb, but more of a spirit ray, something that can literally concentrate spirit power and shoot it in a way that is exquisitely destructive. It makes an atomic. It's basically an atomic cannon. It's if you were to put it on a tank, you could probably annihilate a city with this thing. It really is a scary looking weapon. And we learn that Julie has been sabotaging the project as much as she can, trying to get the thing to explode. But every single time she does, Batar Jr. finds what the problem is and stops it right before it does. And Kuvira catches her and basically says, take this woman, put her in the town that we are testing this weapon on, and you can blow her up there. She can watch the death ray in action firsthand, and it's like, oh wow, it's really cementing. Kuvira is insane. She really is. She does not take betrayal lightly. If you betray her once, shame on you. If you betray her twice, shame on her. She will destroy you. And it really does cement her as a villain. Like, it's been a little bit ambiguous so far as, okay, you know what? She might be a military ruler, she might be a dictator, but she's keeping within herself. Now it's no. She is going to be she is a horrible person. All of that is just lurking beneath the surface of her exterior, and when it comes out, you really do see the villainous nature of Kuvira. It is astounding. The bending in this episode, when they then go to battle Kuvira, it's amazing on a level that we have not seen throughout the entire series. Avatar Airbender was famous for its large-scale bending. This episode gives us some of that large-scale bending. When you see the Beifongs battling Kuvira's elite guards with their bending, you can feel the power. You can feel the earth shifting. And that's one thing that we've never really gotten. We've seen epic fire bending. We've seen dragons breathe fire and then they get blasted out of the sky. We've seen giant whirlwinds of air bending. We've seen tornadoes of water columns lifting up into the air. But we haven't seen any large-scale earth bending, and this gives it to us, and it gives it to you in a way that feels satisfying. Su Yin and Kuvira face off against one another, and you could see it's two masters battling each other, and it feels like you could feel the weight of every single blow, every move. They are really trying to hurt one another. Kuvira has a sword similar to the one that the what are they called? The Gundams have in Pacific Rim. And she pulls it out and she basically starts trying to cut Su Yin. You're like, oh my god. They're really trying to take each other out. They're literally trying to kill each other. You feel the weight of what they're doing. And just as you think the Beifongs are going to be defeated, the earth starts to shake. You see a targeted earthquake start to happen, and all around everyone, and all around the Beifongs, everyone who is not Beifong, the earth literally upheaves, and then as the dust clears, it's just Toph standing there. Kuvira sees Toph, and Toph basically points at her and goes, "You give metal benders a bad name," and then she just leaves. If Kuvira is willing to fight Su Yin, you can tell she's looking at Toph. She is amazed to see Toph, and it's almost the respect of a student to a master. The way that she looks at her, it's like, okay, I may have battled Su Yin and almost won. There's no way that I can take on Toph, and just seeing the two of them look at each other like that, it's almost an understanding of one master to one expert. It's like, okay, I may be good, but I'm not as good as her. And Toph is basically intimidating her just with her reputation and her presence. It's not a battle. It's not a battle in the way that you expected it to be. But it's the battle the way it should be. And when Toph, and then when they'll just get on their Sky Bison and leave, it's just, okay, yes, they've escaped, but here's the reason why. You are about to face down Toph Beifong. You cannot face down Toph Beifong. The ending of this episode, as well, gives us a lot of humor, and it gives us a lot of resolution, because throughout the episode, we have Lin and Toph. They're antagonistic to each other. They're really taking, if you recall back to season 3, Lin has a lot of problems with her sister, and she also has a lot of problems with her mother because she basically ended up working out with her sister and forgiving her sister. And it also turns out that she has problems with her mother based on the fact that she never knew who her father was. And it does feel somewhat rushed, but I think that if they had the and this goes back to episode 8 of this season. If they had the budget they were supposed to, and episode 8 was still there and it wasn't this silly clip show that we got, I think that we could have taken the Korra half of this episode out, made it its own episode, and then we could have used those spare parts to really flesh out the problems that Lin and Toph have between one another. Because you could see, Toph is glad to see her daughter, and she's willing to move on. Lin, on the other hand, still has issues that are very deep-seated, and while she's not going to get over them, she does have to work them out in order to move past them and have a better relationship with her mother. And the ending basically says, look, Toph basically says to her children, look, I may not have been the greatest mother, but I have 2 great daughters, and it would be a good consolation to me if you simply do not hate me, because I love you and I want you to love me back. And that's basically the resolution they have. We also get a nice little tidbit from Michael and Brian, because Opal says, Grandma, aren't you coming back with us to the city? And Toph is like, no, my fighting days are done. Don't tell Korra, but my back is killing me after this. And if you're wondering why Katara didn't get into the Civil Wars, they literally say, I'm not going to spoil it, but basically it's saying, look, we have served our time. We had our adventures. We did what we're supposed to do. Now it's time for you to take over from us and to do what you have to do in our place. And you know what? I think it was a very nice way of putting it. I think it was very nice of Michael and Brian to give us that. It's basically saying to the fans, look, we acknowledge how much you love the old characters, but you know what? They've served their time. Now it's time for the second generation to step up and do what they have to do. And I think that that's something that's been said throughout the entire season, because when you look at Katara during the Civil War, she was helping to heal people with the Southern Raiders, but she wasn't going off into battle. She's a 90-year-old woman. What do you expect her to do? Zuko, Lord Zuko went to try and stop Zahir and his gang from breaking out Pai Li. Did he do it? No, but he tried. He got knocked flat on his back, and for a second we all thought he was dead. Thank God he was not. Toph, we see her literally cause an earthquake and then take off on her Sky Bison. It's nice to see the old characters, but we have to let them step aside and let the younger generation, let the children take care of things. And I really liked what they did with that. In terms of Opal and Bolin's relationship, I also think it was good for what we saw, because throughout the series, whenever we see 2 characters in a relationship, they're usually at extremes. They're either super in love, and then when something goes wrong, they fall out of love and they usually break up. And in terms of writing relationships, the Avatar series has either been, well, they're super in love or they're not in love at all. Bolin and Opal's relationship takes a much different approach by showing us how an actual relationship actually works. It's showing, yes, one party has hurt the other one, but they're not just going to separate because of it. Yes, the 2 characters care for each other. We really did get this in episode 9. we know that Opal cares for Bolin because when she gets the note that Bolin has been grievously injured, she gets up and she quickly runs to try and find him. So she actually cares for his character. We know Bolin cares for Opal. He's Bolin. He doesn't hate anyone. I mean, I don't even think he hates Kuvir, but he genuinely does love Bolin, or he genuinely does love Opal, and we hear him say it as he begs for another chance. And instead of just being, you know what, you hurt me, I hurt you, let's just break up and separate, they're actually saying, no, we're in a bad place, let's try and work through this and get to a better place. If we can, fine. If we can't, we can't. And then we're going to have to try and find another solution from there. It's the dynamics of a real relationship, and it's refreshing to see, and I'm glad I saw it. I truly am. And that's the Beifong half of this episode. As you can see, they packed a lot. They really did pack a lot. Moving on to the Korra half of this episode, we see the basic preparation for what's going to become the battle for Republic City. So, we're introduced to Korra's situation with Korra, Asami, Mako, Prince Wu, and Varric in President Raiko's office. And they're presenting some updated plans for weapons that they're going to use when Kuvira finally does decide to attack Republic City. And Raiko is basically acting like a petulant child. He's demanding that Varric and Asami build him spirit weapons. And basically the two of them tell him, well, you know what? You can demand spirit weapons all you want. Take a hike. They are way too dangerous, and they should not be used. And Raiko's basically going, look, they're going to be using spirit weapons against us. We have to be able to defend ourselves. But to be quite frank, looking at the way that Varric and Asami are responding to President Raiko, I think it's the way that the scientists who developed atomic weaponry, I think that that's actually the way they would have responded to the governments of the world when they basically said, look, we need atomic weapons because this person has atomic weapons. It's basically exploring the hypothetical. If the scientists of the world had come together at the time and said, look, no, it is too dangerous for any one person to have this technology, much less all of you to have this technology. You will literally destroy each other if you have the capability. You are not to be trusted. And it worked very well. If Oppenheimer had come out and said, look, yes, I know how to split the atom, but there is no way that I am going to hand it to you as a weapon. This is exploring the other side of that, and it's done very well, and it truly does show the nature of government. I didn't think that Raiko was a good leader from season 2. He's proved it here. He fails to be inspiring as a diplomat to other countries. He cannot convince either the Air Nation or the Fire Nation to see things his way. He only sees what his immediate needs are. He doesn't see what the needs of the other nations are or the long term. He is solely concerned with Republic City, and it hurts him in the long run. It really does show that his introspective self-interest policy does him no good, and I'm glad that they're exploring that. I really and truly am, because the Fire Nation, Tenzin comes out and says, look, we're airbenders. We're not going to initiate a fight with Kuvira. And the Fire Nation says, look, we've been fighting dumb, silly wars, although they instigated most of them, for the last few hundred years of our history. We're not doing that anymore. We have changed our policy. If you want us to help you, if you want us to help defend you, we're here for you. But we're not going to go to war on your behalf. It's basically the world saying no to one particular country, which I'm not going to mention. But you all know who I'm talking about. And then we see Korra, as she goes, well, before we see Korra, we get a line from Prince Wu, where Prince Wu basically says, you know what, it's good for the warmongers and it's good for the Avatar to be going and looking into solution for this, but here's what we should be doing as world leaders. What we should be doing is that we should be evacuating the city. And Raiko, who goes, actually, that's not a bad idea. It seems to be that in his entire plan to be going to war with the Earth Empire, he fails to have realized that he is much smaller than the Earth Empire is, and he's probably going to get his butt whooped. So what he should be doing is looking at a contingency plan for, yes, if I lose, how do I do my first duty first? I need to be concerned about my citizens, not just about my reputation on the world stage as a world leader. Basically, I'm seeing a man who had all of these very convoluted plans. He intended to install the Prince Wu as king of the Earth Kingdom and control them through his advisors, but that fell through, and Kuvira basically said, look, I'm not relinquishing power. Now he sees that everybody else around him is not going to help him in fighting this war against the Earth Empire. And on top of that, he's not going to get his way in terms of having weapons that he can use against them in battle. You're basically seeing a world leader being brought to his knees and then being forced to see things in a completely different light. It's refreshing, because normally whenever a president goes and says that I need this done now, everybody is jumping to serve him. But in this series we see, no, you know what? You take a back seat. The rest of us are the ones who have to work this out. And I think it's very interesting. I'm interested to see where that goes. Prince Wu also mentioned something that I hate to say it, he's absolutely right. He mentioned, Mako was talking to him, and Mako's like, hey, you know what? I thought it was very good of you to step up to the plate and say, look, we need to take care of the regular citizens. You're actually starting to shape up to be a good king. And what does Prince Wu say? He says, you know what? The only reason I'm doing it so I could possibly date Korra. Everything that's ever been done, anything that any man has ever done, is simply so that he could try and pick up women. And, oh God. Oh, he's right. Everything. It's a nice comedic moment, but he's absolutely right at the exact same time. It's a joke that Patton Oswalt did, and it's a joke that Jerry Seinfeld's done, and there's a lot of truth in it. So I thought it was very funny, and I thought it was very interesting that he bring that up. I hate that they're making me sympathetic to Prince Wu. I really do, but these guys know how to turn a character. They're pivoting their characters very, very well, and it's very interesting to see. We also see Korra, moving on. She basically says, look, you can't have spirit technology to go, basically she's saying, we're not going to give you atomic bombs, but here's what we're going to do. I, as the spiritual bridge, I'm going to go and I'm going to try and convince the spirits to help defend their home. Republic City is also the home of the spirit world, so I'm going to go and I'm trying to convince them to defend their home. And Korra has a really tough time doing it. What they do in this particular scene is they're trying to close some of the plot holes that happened in season 2, and and I have to say this to the writers, admirable as that may be, this is not the time and place for doing that. Season 2 happened. It is over. It's finito. We cannot fix what has already happened. Because basically, she goes to the spirits and she says, look, I need your help. Republic City is going to be attacked. Please, I'm asking you as the Avatar. We have to work together to both live and prosper in this new world. And what one of the spirits of the Tree of Time basically comes down and says is, look, you're simply trying to use spirit power against Kuvira the way that Kuvira is using spirit power against you. You're trying to get spirits to fight your battles for you. And then she brings up the point that Unalaq was using spirits to fight his battles, but then the spirit goes, yes, Unalaq was using spirits. However, he was forcing spirits to fight for him, using Vatu's evil manipulative powers, which brings up as an explanative line is fine when you look at it on the surface, but let's dig a little bit deeper. So, I understand that he has been very connected to the spirits, and that Unalaq was able to pass in and out of the spirit world using his own meditation. However, there's one problem. Benders who enter the spirit world not through the portals can't bend in the spirit world. So my question now becomes, how did Unalaq, without his ability to bend, use the power of Vatu to then force spirits to serve? You see where I'm going with this? It becomes another very convoluted part of the plot. When you dissect it logically, it makes no sense. We know that Unalaq needs to be able to do his spirit bendy thingy with the water in order to either cleanse a spirit or corrupt a spirit. Okay. The spirit portals are mostly closed, with the exception of the spirits that live in and around the portals at the north and southern water tribes. Okay, so how did he? You see where I'm going with this? It's a little bit hard to see how he then corrupted. How did he corrupt those spirits who are living around the northern water tribe? If Vatu is in the spirit world, and he's trapped within the Tree of Time, and all of his power is contained within the Tree of Time by the Avatar's original lock on him. You see this starts to break down. It doesn't make any logical sense. So it's good to see Korra struggle with the spirits and try to come to terms with the spirits, try to convince them that yes, we are both a part of the world, and that we need spirits and people, we are all one and the same. We need to come together, and we need to help preserve the world that we are creating. So that's going to be a very interesting struggle to watch. I think what she needs to do is, she either needs to find Uncle Iroh and get his opinion on how to convince the spirits, or she needs to reconnect with her past Avatar selves and then get them to help her get the spirits and reconnect. Because other than that, I don't see how she's going to convince them. Like, is she going to go to Ko and ask him for his help? Like, how is this going to play out? Is she just going to go back to Raiko and hang her head and say, look, I failed. I couldn't do it. Here, I'll go and harvest spirit mines for you and you can have spirit weapons. Or is she going to go and sacrifice herself Iron Giant style in order to stop the spirit cannon from destroying Republic City? At this point, it's all up in the air. We have next to no idea what is going to happen. But I'm glad to see that Korra has broken through her spiritual block. We haven't seen her go into the Avatar state yet, so that is going to be very interesting. When she goes into the Avatar state, is she still going to see her bad spiritual self? If so, how is she going to get over that block? Because that seems to be the final block she needs to break through in order to have surmounted and moved past her post-traumatic stress disorder, her traumatic nostalgia. So when she then goes into the Avatar state, are we going to see her pause to go and fight herself? Will she win? Will she lose? These are all very interesting questions, which I hope are answered in the next few episodes. And to be quite frank, I cannot wait to see. It was excellent. It was extremely excellent. And that's pretty much what I have to say. Up to now, the plot of the Avatar series has been fairly linear and has been cut and paste from a lot of different things. I'm glad to see that they're using new material, but even so, they did slip in some stuff from other films. For example, when Toph meets Juicy, who is Opal's flying bison, she says, I thought Appa stank. Why did you choose this bison of all things? And Opal turns to her and she goes, well, I didn't choose the bison chooses you, and once the bison chooses you, you can't switch. Believe me, I tried. And they're taking stuff from literally the other Avatar. It's like, come on, guys. A movie that literally everybody saw called Avatar, you're borrowing storylines from there? Really? I understand your sense of humor, but come on. Really? Plus, it falls out of canon. I've seen I've seen them ride bison interchangeably. Like, you remember that giant herd of sky bison that the fire sages have been raising? Did one of those just so happen to pick Korra, or did she just pick one at random and ride it all the way to Air Temple Island? Or sorry, the Northern Air Temple where Tenzin was located. Come on, guys. You're breaking continuity. Continuity is an important thing. Don't break it. Anyways, that's been my review. It was an excellent episode. I encourage you to watch it. I have nothing to nitpick about it. I loved it. So, that's been my review, and I will see you in the discussion. Welcome to the discussion portion of this review. As always, if you leave a comment down below, you will be entered in this section where I will comment on your comments. I'll answer whatever questions you have to say. We'll have a nice discussion, and we'll chat about your ideas. If you made it through the review, as always, you're a boss because I know I'm very hard to listen to. If you skipped through the review to get here, I suggest you go back and watch the review because that's going to give context to several of the things I have to say. Now, this week, praise the heavens, Knife Inc. managed to find some time and make a review. For those of you who do not know who Knife Inc. is, she is, if on the level of reviewers I'm here, she's like up here. She is very, very good reviewer, extremely thorough in the details she goes to, really inquisitive, and she always manages to notice even the most minute details and extrapolate them to just some really wonderful conclusions, and I love her for it. She don't change. I wish if I at my best am her at her lowest. So that's how I view it. We've done one unofficial podcast together. Hopefully by the end of the season, myself, Kiran, and Knife Inc. will be able to get back together and do one final podcast for the end of this series, and it will be amazing. That's my hope. But this is her review, and I'm not going to put it in here, but I'm going to link it down below. I'm going to give my opinion on some of the comments, the points she made. I absolutely think you should go and listen to it. Pause this video, listen to it, and then come back and hear what I have to say in context. Alright, let's begin. In terms of Beyond the Wilds, you're absolutely correct. The stacking that we have seen in terms of Korra's journey from her disability to her recovery with her inability to walk or really do anything for herself, the time that she spent with Katara, her time alone as she was basically trying to quest for a way to overcome her demons, basically running away from her problems, trying to find a safe place away from that traumatic nostalgia. And then just finding herself in the swamp with Toph, where she's forced for the very first time to come face to face with the fears that her enemies basically instilled in her, and the consequences that defeating them brought about. I mean, really, it was only once she met Toph, and Toph said, look, you're not meant to solve all the world's problems. You have to be able to learn from your enemies. You can't carry your enemies with you. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to face new threats. We saw her get rid of the final bit of poison from her system and then have her final confrontation with Zahir. All in all, it has been an epic journey to see her recovery and to be able to leave what has happened to her in the past, where it belongs. And this has been foreshadowed throughout the entire season, that this is what must happen in order for Korra to grow as the Avatar, and this was a very touching, very poetic, and very fitting conclusion to her journey of recovery. Even from season 1, seeing her go from, or I should say season 2, seeing her go from the unspiritual hothead to being able to access the Avatar state, becoming more spiritual, becoming less of a hothead and more of a reasonable person who tries to work out their problems, and then having that defeated, and then her have to grow past that and grow as an Avatar, it seems like a very natural progression. And It's what we as the audience wanted. Now, hopefully, we get to see her kick some butt and take some names, because now, according to Zahir and according to Rava, the only limits that she knows of her powers are the ones that she sets on them. So hopefully we get to see her go, yeah, you know what? I do have infinite power, but I'm going to use it for infinite good. We shall see. We can only see. As to your nitpick, don't consider it to be a small thing at all. I'll explain it to you. She says that Knifing said that she wished that the reconnection with Rava had been a little bit longer, and she considers it to be a very small nitpick, and I say no, do not consider it to be a small nitpick. I'll tell you why it feels rushed. It is, the reason being, as we all know, episode 8's fault. Episode 8 happened, and you can see that it has had a lot of resounding consequences. The fact that the Battle of Zaofu was not really a battle, the linear plot line of the majority of these episodes, despite how tightly written they are, the cut, paste, and copied storylines from so many well-known books and movies that we have seen put into Avatar form, some of the animation being CG'd where it doesn't need to be, or just lazy animation. Even in this episode, as good as it was, there was some lazy animation. Like you could see frames were missing when someone's arm lifted up. All of that has been done simply for the fact that they need to save money for the finale, so that it can be everything that the fans want it to be, that the writers want it to be. The season is coming together extremely well in a way that I found rather unexpected, since I dislike seeing well-known stories basically being used in a world that we so far have seen to be completely unique and almost genre defining. I mean, what would you define Avatar as in terms of a genre? I would say it's not its own genre, but it's on the point where if it was just taken to a logical conclusion, or if its universe was continuously expanded, like Star Wars, how Star Wars is its own genre, Avatar could be its own genre. But the fact of the matter is, they needed that money so that they can make the season finale what it is. And everything that I've complained about in season 4 has been for this one end. We can see, okay, they're putting their best foot forward at the very end. This episode was, these last few episodes are the pinnacle of their writing. I have to say it. It's extremely well done, and I couldn't wish for anything more. I honestly couldn't. Now, in terms of the meeting of Toph and Lin, I think I see what the writers were going for, but again, same thing as the previous point. The episode felt flustered due to the fact that we're watching 2 episodes condensed into 1. And if we had an extra episode instead of a clip show in order to flesh out Korra and Republic City's dilemma, instead of juxtaposing it in with Operation Beifong, then we would have been able to explore the plot of Lin and Toph's relationship a lot further than we got to, and have gone much deeper, similar to the way that episode 10 in season 2 went much deeper into the character of the Avatar, the spiritual side of the Avatar, or how Long Live the Queen, which is season 3 episode 10, how that episode really shone a light on Korra and Asami in terms of being able to work together to get a job done, as well as Zahir, the lengths that Zahir was willing to go to in order to achieve his goal. It really, episode 10 has always been the in-depth episode, and I feel that that's what this was supposed to show us, but it was unable to. It was hampered by the fact that they had to juxtapose these 2 things together. You also mentioned that the relationship felt felt fairly sudden, even though it's been built up quite a bit. I would say that this is fairly typical of the Avatar writers. They they need to drop very important pieces of information just through throwaway lines or background scenes, and then never once try to explain the implications of the bomb that they just dropped. Take the Zahir Lee love story relationship. You could craft an entire season of Avatar, if not an entire series, based on how the two of them came to be as a couple. The fact that Lin's dad and was referenced as a way pointing to the comics and saying, here's the information you need. There's the comics, there's the series. You fill in the gaps yourself is really telling about the constraints that the writers have had to face for these last 4 seasons. Personally, and you said that you were devastated learning that piece of information the way you did, and you're not even invested. Well, I am slightly invested. I had a little bit of a betting pool running. I won my money. So, personally, I'm not devastated, despite someone who really, really, really wanted to know how Lin and Suyin came to be half-sisters, right? And from my point of view, as someone who wanted to know, it's a gift in terms of information that I've been able to work with. Now I, the viewer, am allowed to build the story myself, to inference, to stitch it. It's much better this way if they just blatantly tell us and then say, okay, you can then do all the inferencing yourself. Because when they just say, okay, here's the entire arc of the story and this is going to be canon, all of the fun of speculation is suddenly just ripped right out of it. I mean, if you couldn't speculate on what things were going to happen, you wouldn't bother watching a TV show or writing a fan fiction or making that piece of artwork that expresses how you think things are or should have happened. Because then it's not necessary. I mean, quite frankly, this was a necessary piece of information that would have remained nothing but speculation. And I'm thankful for the little bit that we got. Because remember, what was their other option? Their other option was they just not tell us at all and it remains in the dark. So the fact that it only leaves me wanting to know more, and I know that I'll never find that out as long as I live, is heartbreaking. I mean, that's disappointing. And I'm not disappointed that I found out. I'm disappointed that I'm not going to find out more. That now we have to wait or potentially never find out. That's a devastating thing. It's the more devastating than that, however, would be if we never found out. Now, if you want to find out about everything I've just been talking about, I suggest that you read The Rift, which is the comic book series that they're doing. In fact, there's a copy of it here on YouTube, and I think I'll link it in the description. There's The Rift Part 1, there's The Rift Part 2. The Rift Part 3 has not come out yet, but I'll link those 2 parts down there so you can go check them out, and then you know what I'm talking about. Oh, Kentoph fans rejoice, all of your speculation has been made into canon. And look, as a Zutara fan, if there was even a hint in the Korra series, like if Katara and Zuko, old as they were, happened to be in the same room with each other and they gave each other a knowing look, I would count that as a triumph. I would be literally over the moon, and the technical producer would be weeping into her pillow. So, and that's not even saying that anything happened between the two of them. Could you imagine? Now, could you imagine if they actually? I feel for you what you probably feel now. You are probably just as happy as I imagine I would be. I would die happy knowing that that happened, but oh well. Now, as to the earthbending in this episode, the earthbending was basically twofold, I felt. Number one, they're making up for the lack of large-scale bending that we've seen throughout the show, particularly in this season. But it's also hinting to us, tantalizing us, in fact, that what the season finale's battle is going to look like is going to be 100 times more epic. And to be quite frank, we haven't had any large scale earthbending, so I think it was very refreshing to see this. And moving on from that, you mentioned that you were annoyed by Opal, so I have to say this: no, you're not the only person who is annoyed by Opal. But to be frank, she's a side character who we haven't had a lot of time to develop, the way that we had with season 3 in terms of the other side character, Kai. Both of them were in season 2, but we developed Kai's character a lot more than we developed Opal. Opal was there as a love interest for Bolin, and that was pretty much it. She didn't play a major role in season 3. It's only now in season 4 near the end that she seems to have popped up as a person. However, I think, you're saying that she's being unfair to Bolin. I have to try and counterpoint this. I think the hint to why she's acting the way she is comes from episode 9, when we hear her venting her frustration to Korra that her entire family has basically been taken by an evil dictator, imprisoned, possibly being tortured, and no one, absolutely no one, seems to care about it. Put yourself in Opal's situation. You're the last free member of your family. The rest of them have been captured and are possibly being tortured or worse. And then, since we're dealing with Kuvira, the people who have captured them happen to be Nazis. I mean, I understand her frustration. She is understandably worried that her family is in the hands of the most evil person in the world. I mean, what else is she supposed to feel? And when you take the fact that the only person left who she truly cares about, Bolin, and you have him tell her that 1, he is grievously injured, and then 2, try to use her concern to charm his way back into her heart through a ruse, I can see the reason why she's upset at him. It's not that he works for Kuvira. That's the deflection, right? That's the weak excuse. That's the main point on the side. The real reason that Opal is angry at Bolin is because she wants him, nay, in fact, needs him to be supportive of her in this time of crisis. And he's not. He's just oblivious to her needs. And while it's fine that he's willing to go along with the mission and help her and face mortal peril because this is the woman he loves her with every fiber of his being, the fact that he has to be asked into helping her, that is the hurtful part. It is so hurtful. And I think that it's the reason that Opal is correct to be angry with Bolin. I mean, think about it. If something happens to your family, you expect the person who you're with, who loves you, to be there to support you and to help you through this difficult time. And it's very telling as to just how completely oblivious Bolin is in this situation. But to be fair as well, he did go along, he risked his life, he made the hard decisions, and he fought well. And in the end, he made it up to her, and Opal recognized that, and the two of them got back together. He's back in her bed. So it all works out in the end. Also, recall, Opal was told by Kuvira that Bolin was 100% behind her in the taking of Zaofu. And while this might not be true, at the time, it is a very deep shock. And it plants that seed of doubt in the back of the mind that that, okay, Bolin is not here, but this is what I'm being told. He wasn't there to defend himself, so he is guilty by association. Or guilty by absenteeism. And also, in terms of people who are mad at Bolin, you said that almost no one could be mad at Bolin. Look, I have a list that's about 2 to 3 seasons long, combined, as to why I dislike Bolin. But I'm not going to get involved in that because I respect you too much to go through that and to basically say, no, you're wrong, Bolin is horrible. No, if you like Bolin, I have nothing to say about it. That's it. My personal feeling is, I hate him. I hate him so bad. Suffice it to say, I just find his slapsticky bits annoying, and I prefer him in this season because he's more mature, although still exquisitely naive to the point of, I mean, you're right, he is like a puppy in the rain. He's rather pathetic, so you have to take pity on him. Now, in terms of the relationship building that they did in this episode, the dynamic is refreshing because, as I said earlier, typically what we see is that the characters are either totally in love and then something happens and the desk ends up getting kicked over or someone ends up having a pot of hot water thrown over their head and boop, broke up. That's the end of the relationship. This is actually the first time we've seen something akin to actual relationship dynamics where, yes, you did something wrong, but because we love each other, or we think we love each other, we're going to try and work our way through this and get to a better place than where we are now. They did it successfully, and I can only applaud them for it. Good job, Bolin. Good job, Opal. And just to finish up, again, as always, you're right. In terms of the way that the Korra scenes felt in this episode, I think that this was originally done as a Beifong episode, but we were forced to condense the Korra episode and combine the two. The juxtaposition literally breaks up the tension of the Beifong half of this episode. But I think that we're going to see more of Korra in the spirit world, and that is going to be made up for much later on. And as I said before, and I'll say it again, we can only wait and see. There are 3 episodes left, 2 weeks to go. My God, I can't believe it's over so quickly. I literally cannot. Alright, so those are my comments on Knife Ink Review. Let's move on to our commenters' comments. This week, unfortunately, I released the episode late, so we only have one commenter, Mr. Juan Rodriguez. Now, Juan is one of my oldest commenters, and I'm always very happy to see him. So, let's see what he has to say. He said, "This episode was good, and thank goodness we get to see Zahir again." Now, I have a bad feeling about what's going to happen with Bolin on that secret mission. I know Opal is mad at him, but she's playing with fire and it could cost Bolin's life. I want to talk to you about your response to my comments. Hold it right there. One, what I said about M. Night and what I did in terms of looking him up and basically tearing him down the way I did, that was extremely unprofessional of me. I've reviewed my behavior and I thought to myself, you know what? Yes, he's done some movies that I disagree with in terms of whether or not they're good or whether or not they're bad, and while I could objectively tear them to pieces, it's not necessarily his fault, and my little tirade there was completely uncalled for, and it was very unrelated to the topic we were talking about. So, if I've offended you, I apologize. He says, "Wow, you really know how to get information from the web." Okay, I get it. About M. Night TV series. The show is going to air next year, maybe in spring, or a bit early. Well, you know what? M. Night's trajectory of film and media making ensures that critics will always watch it because it's very easy to go after M. Night. So I'll tell you what. Here's what I'll do. Here is my gift to you. When Wayward Pines does air as a TV series, it will be featured here on this channel, and I will make sure to do, if I can, I will try to do a reaction video to it, which I've never done for any other TV series except for Korra, and I will try and give it a fair review. You can't ask for more than that. But If it is objectively bad, I want you to admit that it is objectively bad. Not 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 uh, not that if you don't like it. I mean that if it's objectively bad. If the acting is typically wooden, if the twists are similar to things that he's done in all of his other movies and therefore are easy to see through, if the show tries and fails because it is not good on objective points, I want you to admit it, right? I'm more than willing to admit when I make a mistake. And this is one of the things that I did not like about M. Night, and this is why I felt that I could compare it to the to the incident that happened with the TV show with episode 8. They both got put to the screws with Nickelodeon, but there's a key difference in what happened. Michael and Brian did the best they could, and then after when they knew that what they had come up with was not up to snuff, they came out to the fans and said, "Look, this is what happened. We did the best we could, but we tried to make it so it's not bad, but we know that a lot of you are going to look at it and say, this is horrible. We apologize, but this is the reason why." M. Night never did that. He never once did that. He defended Airbender until he could do so no more. And then he backtracked and blamed it on the network. At no point did he ever apologize, and I, as an Avatar fan, am offended because of that. And that's my personal feeling. But I should not let that get in the way. So I apologize for being unprofessional, but I will critique that movie, and I can make that comparison because I'm dealing with the same network and I'm dealing with the same series. You continue on. As for him directing movies, well, he's making The Visit, which is a low-budget thriller movie that Universal will distribute next September. M. Night's career is not over by a long shot, and I'm looking forward to your review of The Last Airbender movie in the future. But also, I hope you could give your thoughts on Nick's latest TMNT movie. In my opinion, Nick really put all the stops on that one. Actually, funny you should mention that. I sent a review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Thoroughly Entertained. So if you want to read my review, go to thoroughllyentertained.com, find TMNT, and read the review there. In my opinion, no, read that already. Lastly, I hope you will go to that website and look at those articles. If you disagree of what they say, well, good, but it will give you a different story of how the studios look at the movie. Well, I haven't gone to the website yet. When I have some time, I'll make sure to try. And if it does, I will concede the point. But as it stands, M. Night, I am a critic. Remember that. I am a critic of movies and television. And if the director does something wrong and doesn't own up to it, I will go after him for it. It's in the job description. I'm supposed to objectively critique things. And like you said, when I say that M. Night's career is over, look at where he started and look at where he is now. He started as a Hollywood darling, making the biggest blockbusters you could ever imagine. Now, as you said, he's making what is essentially an indie film that is going to be distributed next year, despite the fact that it is pretty much done. I've heard about The Visit. Apparently he filmed it over the summer, and now they're going to wait and release it next year. I don't know what they're waiting for. They might as well release it as soon as it's done. He's directing TV. When a movie, you have to understand, in the business, when a Hollywood when a Hollywood director goes from directing large movies to TV series, it's a sharp decline. It's a very slippery slope. I mean, Universal is a company that was bankrupted by the fact that they made a $44 million movie that made $3 million in box office, and they were the only successful Hollywood indie production studio at the time, and they had to be bought up by MGM. So the fact that Universal is doing this again, It is low budget, fair enough, but I don't know. I've seen that studio be sunk once by bad directors. I can't imagine that I can only imagine, I should say. I can only imagine what The Visit is going to be. Tell you what, I'll review that one too, when and if it comes out. It'll probably premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival. I'll buy my ticket and go see it. Okay, I'll make sure to keep it on my watch list. And when it comes out, I'll go see it. But again, if it's objectively bad, there's nothing I can do. I can't. I'm not gonna compromise my critique simply to spare a director's feelings. It would be like saying that The Master of Disguise is not an objectively bad movie full of plot holes. It is. It would be like saying that Avatar: The Last Airbender, the movie, is not bad because you don't have to watch season 1 of Avatar after you watch that movie. Again, no. It doesn't. One does not substitute the other. Although I will say this, I want to see M. Night Shyamalan make Avatar: The Last Airbender Part 2. I need that to be a thing. I want to see it. I want to see it really, really badly. Simply so I can see what Azula would have been. I need that to be a thing. I need to know what Azula would have been in that film series, because we get a tiny little glimpse of her at the very, very end of that movie. And I'm wondering, would she have been the badass character that we all came to love and fear at exactly the same time? Ah, oh Azula, you're my #1 villain of all time. But anyways, that's it for the discussion portion of this review. If you want to have your comments in the discussion, all you have to do is leave one in the comment section, or be a very good friend of the show, and I will comment on your reviews. I will comment on your comments. I will answer your questions. Nothing is too big or too small or too well, some things are too controversial, but leave a comment and see if you think it's worthy of being talked about. Leave it. We will see. This brings us to the end, and as always, I will see you next week in the review.